afternoon, everyone. We are preparing to begin the press conference with our elections director, Mr. Richard Barron. As we move forward, he will come on and make a brief statement, and then we will take questions. If you have a question, we would ask that you physically raise your hand or raise your hand through the Zoom link so that we can see who you are and make sure that your questions are placed on the table.
Okay. Is everybody there?
Yes, Mr. Barron, you can go ahead.
Okay. Are you okay? Here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not sure who's on here. I'm going to just look through the list real quick, but I just wanted to give everyone an update of what we're doing. We've been getting so many press requests. We thought that it would be easier if we just did this all at once. So one thing that we've done this year, this summer, I got a grant from, hold on, I'm getting feedback. I could hear this coming from my secretary's office. So we got a grant for $6.3 million from Center for Tech and Civic Life, and enabled us to do some things with poll workers to make sure we attract them and retain them. We've had more than 6,000 people apply to be poll workers this year. That number is probably bordering on 7,000. We have had several recruitment partnerships with Metro Atlanta Chamber, ACLU, Secretary of State, political parties, and many citizens out there have applied to be poll workers. We are going to be able to assign and train 2,900 poll workers. We will have line managers, we will have techs in all the precincts, we will have the managers, the assistant managers, the clerks. We are going to have a special station to process those that are going to bring in their absentee ballot and cancel it, or cancel their absentee ballot application. So we will have a lot of people working in the polling sites in addition to what we normally have. We have been having refresher training for all the poll workers. This September election is going to help all of those poll workers that live in the 5th or work in the 5th congressional district, because they're going to get an extra training ahead of the election. We have added so many new polling places for this year. We're up to 255 locations. And one thing that we're doing with this training is that we are training a lot of the new managers for November, along with the September workers. And then we are going to have the new managers shadow poll managers in the polling places for the September election. So we think that's going to help the new managers get used to being in the precinct and seeing some of the different situations that can arise in a polling place on election day, and that's going to be helpful. We have tailored the training to address issues identified in recent elections. We have a much more difficult test that you have to pass at the end of the training class, and we've had a customer service component added in that. We're going to have 30 permanent early voting locations. We are also going to be the first county in Georgia to unveil mobile voting units or mobile voting precincts. And these are essentially buses that have 9 voting stations on them and 2 check-in stations. They are going to be in a supplement to our early voting program. We will be releasing a schedule for those mobile voting units soon, and those will be sent out. We'll put one in each commissioner district for about 6 days each, and then on the last day of early voting, what we're going to do is use them to help with overflow at 2 of the most busy locations other than the 3 mega sites. We've got State Farm Arena there where we're going to have 300 ballot marking devices assigned. We are, and 60 check-in stations. We are also going to have at larger sites at the Georgia International Congress Center in College Park and the Benson Senior Center up in Sandy Springs. We will have outreach sites on college campuses also, as we normally do, and at some of the senior centers as well around the county. With regard to absentee by mail, we hope to have 40% of our turnout with absentee by mail to reduce the number of people that are going to have to go in person to vote. That will help out with COVID-related matters. We have a dedicated call center established to support absentee by mail requests. We already have had one call center set up since June, and we are adding another one and the personnel will begin reporting to that call center tomorrow. So we should have 55 people available to handle phone calls between now through November's election. We have, of course, the Secretary of State put out, they developed an absentee portal, and that has helped with absentee by mail application processing. We also, for those that download a paper or they receive one in the mail and they want to return it easily, we have a portal where they can upload their paper application that they have signed into our portal. Makes it much easier for us to process it from that dashboard that we have within the portal. We have currently 20 absentee ballot drop boxes in place. We have received 21 more boxes. We have 19 locations where we are going to install those 21 boxes. We have 2 other locations that are pending. And by that point, we'll have between 39 and 41 locations for our absentee ballot drop boxes. 93% of voters in the county will live within 3 miles of those absentee ballot drop boxes. That will make it very convenient for the voters to have a place to drop off their absentee by mail if they don't want to put them through the USPS. In June, we had 164 election day locations. We increased that to 175 in August. We will have 255 locations on November 3rd. We now have only 4 polling places where we have more than 5,000 voters assigned. So we set as a goal at the beginning of the year, before COVID, that we wanted to get down below 5,000 per polling place. Then when June happened, that threw our plans out the window, and now we've been able, with grant money, to pay for COVID decontamination. Afterwards, we've been able to attract a lot of polling places. Also, I think one of the silver linings from June has been that we have been able to count on community partners to step forward and say, we want to be involved in this election. And that has enabled us to get a lot more polling places and a lot more facilities involved to be polling locations for this election. We will be giving voters at least 2 weeks prior notice to election day of their changes. We will have people at the old locations directing them to the new locations. And what voters should do is make sure before the November election to check My Voter page, because we're going to have 91 location changes since the June election. That's going to affect a huge number of voters, 91 out of 255 locations. We've been, working on different processes in our warehouse to make sure that we get all the supply checks modified to ensure everything's available for the poll workers. The power systems have been tested in all the polling locations. We will survey the remainder of the new ones as well over the coming weeks to make sure that the circuits in all of these new locations can handle the power requirements of this new voting system. We've added more scanners, ballot marking devices to our inventory. We've also purchased more than 500 additional poll pads. We were allotted 662 by the state when the voting system was purchased, and we have increased our inventory. Our inventory for November will be up to 1,300. We've also bought some high-speed printers for ballot on demand, and we've added some ballot extractors. They will open the envelopes and extract the ballots. Will make it much faster than having humans open up all of those ballots. Because we've already received over 157,000 ballot by mail applications. We've processed through last night more than 153,000 of those. So we are staying caught up and getting all of those ballot by mail applications processed within 24 to 48 hours of receipt. And Runbeck is going to begin mailing out the absentee by mail ballots on the 19th. those will, so the first batch will go out the 19th, and then from there on, they are scheduled to mail our ballots through October 16th. If we get our high-speed printers in sooner than that, we will get them set up and tested and begin mailing ballots ourselves here to get them to the voters as quickly as possible. The post office is recommending that all voters request that they request an absentee ballot through an application by 2 weeks before Election Day, and that they return it a week before Election Day in order to make sure that it gets, both items get through the mail system. So that October 30th is the deadline to apply for a ballot by mail, but it's very important for voters to know that if they wait until that last day, the likelihood that we can get that processed into the mail, they receive it, and that they're able to return it, that it makes it unlikely with the timing for all of that to work out. So that if you're going to request a ballot by mail as a voter, do it earlier rather than later. I think that another group is going to send out more ballot by mail applications for voters. I think the Southern Poverty Law Center is going to be doing a mailer shortly that should go to all voters. And it will also promote the SOS portal. So even if voters do receive that paper app, they will be directed to the SOS portal on that application. Next slide. We're also going to be unveiling a new app soon. It'll easily connect voters with key services, including absentee ballot information, the Georgia My Voter page, early voting information, alerts, and other key features. And it'll be available on Apple and Android, and we'll launch it before early voting begins for the November election. Next slide. Hello? Anyone there?
Rick, this is Jessica. I'm not clear who is running your slides.
Okay. Is that could be the end of the slides? It says slide 6 of 9, so.
I believe you do have some more. I think the next one is about the new app. And
oh, did you not hear? I just went over the app, but I'm not sure that. Oh, it says there's been technical difficulties. I guess.
All right, Mr. Barron, this is Regina. Would you like to start taking questions, and then we can come back to the slides if you like?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So I have Emil Moffett has his hand raised with his question. All right, Emil, if you could unmute yourself, followed by Richard Elliott once you're done to ask your question. Emil?
I see Emil back up there. He was off for a minute.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now.
Go ahead.
Yes, Rick, with the announcement a couple weeks ago of the 1,000 double votes in June, do you know how many of those were in Fulton County, and how do you train poll workers and reassure them that they're going to do everything correctly and not put any voters in danger of being prosecuted by the state?
We have received no word from the state on those 1,000 voters that voted twice. So I'm unsure if any of them are in Fulton County. One of the things that we're going to do is we are going to have a separate station in each of the polling places to process any absentee by mail people that are going to cancel their absentee by mail application. What happens if somebody comes in has applied for an absentee by mail ballot, and whether they've received it, some bring the ballot in and they have to cancel it. Some have just decided to cancel the application. Though it takes longer to process a voter that's going to cancel their ballot by mail application in the precinct or even during early voting. So what we'll do on election day is we will have somebody in each one of the polling places that will be assigned to handle those voters and to cancel their absentee by mail application. That we'll have a connected device in there that can handle that, to make sure that if somebody's going to turn in their absentee application, that that it gets canceled in the system at the same time that they are going to vote. And that should reduce the risk.
All right, our next question is from Richard Elliott, WSB.
Hey, we were listening to a political expert associated with Emory University this morning who said some polls showed 65% of African-American voters in Georgia basically don't trust the absentee ballot system that'll be accurately counted. And he predicted that would be big turnout in the individual polling places. Is there any training or any education being done to try and assuage any of these fears about vote by mail?
Well, I think vote by mail is I mean, relatively, we've had it in Georgia, but it hasn't been widespread the way it is in a lot of other states. And I think there are many other states in the country that do this and do it successfully. And we have been working with Vote at Home, which is a nonprofit. They have been giving us, consulting with us. They have much of their staff is from Colorado, where they transitioned from being primarily an election day and then early voting election day and to mostly a ballot by mail state. And so we have been working with them to make sure that we are ready for the wave of ballots that will come in. We have worked with Dominion, the voting system vendor, to make sure that we can count everything timely that comes in. But I would say that voting by mail is just as reliable as voting by any other method. The votes are counted the same way. They're counted by scanners. Once we open them, we can start processing them 2 weeks ahead of time. I think if somebody is hesitant to mail something through the Postal Service, they can apply for a ballot by mail via the Secretary of State's portal. The ballot will get mailed to them. If they want to take it to a drop box to drop it off, so that they make sure that it gets into our possession. We empty those drop boxes daily. That might be the way to go. But if people are concerned about COVID, the other thing is that voting by mail is also the best method to avoid the polling place in order to make sure people stay healthy.
All right, our next question is from Stephen Fowler of GPB. Stephen?
Yeah, hey, Rick. With the early voting sites, especially the new mega sites that you have, can you just talk a little bit about the capacity for those and how many people can go through like State Farm Arena and the High Museum and other places so that people can understand that there will be less lines there and more people that can be processed?
Well, the State Farm Arena is going to have a capacity for 300 voters to vote at the same time, where they're going to have 300 ballot marking devices and the 60 check-in stations. Georgia International Congress Center and the Benson Senior Center, those are the two other locations. They're going to have either 48 to 50 ballot marking devices each in those. The remaining ones, the allocations for those are going to be they're on an individual basis based on the space that is available in those sites. But we are experimenting with a wait time application so that we can try to, before early voting, get that up so that voters will be able to look and see what the wait time is at various locations. Maybe the one that's 2 miles down the road might have less of a wait than the one closest to them, so it's worth the extra 5 minutes to drive there. We're hoping to have that up. We're experimenting with that now. We're going to start experimenting with that this last part of early voting and see how that application works. And once that is up, we will try to we'll update that hourly during early voting. But I think one thing, when you have these bigger sites that have more machines, they're going to be able to process more people through them quicker than at other locations. I think State Farm Arena, having 300 ballot marking devices and 60 check-in stations, they're going to be able to process a lot of voters through there every day. And with MARTA going there, there's free parking at State Farm. MARTA's station it will be open right outside the arena to get people in and out of there if they want to vote there. I think they're going to have players and staff are going to be voting there for the Hawks, and so it could be that you end up getting a sticker when you vote at the end from any of the Hawks employees, which include the players and the coach. So I think voting at State Farm is the atmosphere there is different than anywhere else, and I also think it's probably we've been partnering with Georgia Tech, Georgia Tech's engineering department to make our early voting sites more, I guess, to have the layout to be the best for this pandemic. They have a COVID grant where they've been able to map our locations. They've done 20 of them so far. So we will lay out our polling locations accordingly to best process voters and to keep COVID in mind in that layout. But I would highly encourage people, if they want to vote early, to use State Farm Arena or GICC and the Benson Center, because those three locations are going to have the most capacity.
All right, we are back with Emil Moffitt has a quick question for you.
Yes, are you concerned with using Runbeck again through mid-October, considering the delays with the mail and those ballots coming all the way from Arizona?
We have spoken with the Postal Service about this. We had a meeting with them a little over a week ago. Basically, the Postal Service, what they recommend is that if you are going to use, mail a ballot, to make sure to get it in a week ahead of time, or to get your application in 2 weeks ahead of time. I would use that. We're going to use it through the 16th, so that'll be up more than 2 weeks before Election Day. If we get our printers installed and tested, we'll take over earlier than that, and that's our goal, is to get those printers in by the end of September. The grant that we obtained is helped us purchase those printers. We purchased 3 high-speed ballot on-demand printers for the November election, and the grant helped with that. So hopefully we'll be able to take over earlier than October 16th. That's our plan at this point.
Thanks.
It's needed to increase the capacity of what we can produce.
Next, we have Veronica Waters.
Hi there. Thank you so much, Regina. Richard, this is Veronica Waters with WSB Radio. I want to confirm whether or not email requests for absentee ballots are being taken ahead of this election, and how sturdy is that system against possible fraud?
We do accept ballot applications through email, although we encourage people if they want to submit their application, rather than using the email, we have a portal for Fulton County where a voter can take their application, and rather than attaching it to an email, they upload it directly into our portal, and we can process it right from there. If you want to do it via email, you can only attach one application per email, and it has to be a PDF or a JPEG only, and it can't be more than 5 megabytes. If it's outside those parameters, we will reject the emailed application. And that's why we built this portal with the U.S. in partnership with the U.S. Digital Response, and U.S. Digital Response built that portal for us pro bono, and we have tested it. We're receiving applications through that on our website. I mean, the preferred method is for voters to use the Secretary of State's portal, but we will accept them uploaded through our portal, the paper applications, and then we will also take email.
Okay, thank you.
The number that we're receiving through the email now has been drastically reduced.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think first of all, there's the Secretary of State's portal is up now. A lot of people are mailing them in, and now that our portal is up that accepts them, it's more secure to upload it to our portal. So I think the email is the third choice for people now.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have Amanda Cooper. Amanda Cooper. Ms. Cooper. All right, Ms. Cooper, have you unmuted yourself? Okay, we will come back to your way. We will go to Stephen Fowler. He has one more question.
Hey, Rick. So with the polling place changes decreasing the number of voters at a different polling place, you said you tried to get them below 5,000. Can you explain how lowering the number of voters assigned to a poll cuts down on lines for Election Day?
Well, if you have fewer people assigned to a polling location, you have fewer people that are going to go to that location. When you take into consideration early voting and absentee by mail, and if you're going to get somewhere between 60 to 80% of your voters voting before Election Day, and you have less than 5,000, there are fewer people to process by the time Election Day rolls around at those polling places. We had some polling places in June after losing a quarter of our locations to where we had 9,000 to 17,000 voters assigned to these locations, and if you're going to have more people when you have more people assigned to it, you're going to have more people go. So what this does is it spreads everyone out amongst many more locations. Voters are required to go to their location, to their assigned location on Election Day. And that is another thing I encourage voters to do, is to make sure they know before they go where they're supposed to be on Election Day. We're sending out a head of household mailing to all the voters that are going to be affected by this change, by the 91 new locations, as well as sending out a precinct card to all those voters that are going to be affected by the changes. So there will be 2 mailings that will go to the voters to make sure they know where to go in November.
All right, Mr. Barron, we do have a question from Amanda Cooper. She wants to know what changes are in place to help streamline the data entry process after an absentee ballot request is submitted through the Fulton County online portal.
Well, the numbers that are coming in through the Fulton County online portal are pretty low right now. I mean, we're getting probably, I think, 20 to 30 per day on that one. The portal where we're seeing a lot of applications is through the Secretary of State's portal, and that goes directly into ElectionNet, which is the voter registration system. So it comes up on a dashboard. We're able to go in and process each application with about 3 clicks. And so it makes it much more efficient and easy to process an application through that portal. When we process it through our portal, what it does is we are able to, the information is there for us it comes into us and is put onto a spreadsheet, and we just process those line by line as it goes down. And so it's organized and it's easy to see which applications have been processed already. So that has streamlined that operation. We have our permanent staff entering applications. We have staff over at the Darnell Senior Center processing applications. And then we also have certain individuals processing absentee by mail applications in the call center that we have operating right now.
All right, Ms. Cooper, I still see your hand raised. Are you able to unmute yourself? She would also like to know what is being done to ensure that Fulton County voters only vote once.
Well, when a voter votes, when a voter applies for an absentee by mail application, that is recorded in the system that there is an absentee by mail ballot that has been requested by the voter. The only way that somebody can then come in and vote at that point is to either cancel that absentee ballot application, or and in order for them to vote in person, or if somebody, they can return the ballot, we give them credit for voting, or if they vote early, they get credit for voting, so that on election day, it indicates in the voter registration system that that person has already voted, either by absentee or during early voting. If an application is still out on election day, somebody can, when they present themselves in the voting place, they will then have to have that absentee ballot application canceled before they're able to vote. So there are checks in place. The poll workers can see whether someone has requested an absentee by mail, whether someone has returned their absentee by mail, or whether they voted early. And when somebody also election or early voting is live. So if somebody votes at one location, it's immediately entered into the system with credit for voting. And then that prevents somebody from going to another early voting location. If it is found that somebody has voted twice, then an investigation is conducted and they can be prosecuted for that, as it's against the law to vote more than once.
All right, at this time, I do not see any other hands raised, so I'm going to assume that we do not have any other questions from our attendees. Mr. Barron, do you have any additional information to provide to our audience?
No, I just, I always like to stress to have voters know before they go in November. That's something simple to say, know before you go, but you help out the voters that are going to be standing in line behind you if you're in the correct location. I mean, the perfect voter is someone that shows up with their ID ready and they're in their assigned location on election day. If you go to a location other than your own on election day, that is one thing that contributes to backing up lines. If you've requested an absentee by mail ballot and you have that ballot, the best thing to do is to return that ballot via Dropbox or through the mail in order to avoid backing up the lines either during early voting or on election day by having us have to cancel either the ballot or the ballot application.
All right, thank you so much. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us. If you have additional questions or need assistance, please feel free to email or call my office. Thank you.
Thank you.